record. And good morning. Today is the 15th of July. It's hard to believe how quickly this summer is speeding by. Today in this work session, we're going to be talking about how to create a Canvas course starting from an empty shell. And if you notice on the screen, hopefully you can see that now. If not, indicate so in the chat and we'll get that resolved. That this is a basic introduction to Canvas. The main things that we're going to be covering in this session are how to import a template, create a new module, create an assignment in the module, a quiz in the module, a file in the module, a page, a discussion, a text header, adding an external URL to a module, adding a tool, external tool called BibliU for textbooks to the module. And we're going to look very, very quickly at how to group and weight tasks in your Canvas course. All right, let me put that away. And what we have here is an empty course shell in Canvas. Because this is a basic course, and especially because we're recording, I do want to recapitulate some of the basic information that we try to provide in a basic session, and that is your Canvas layout. So when you first log into Canvas, you arrive at what is known as your dashboard. Your dashboard will show you the classes to which you have been invited to participate. And if your internet connection is slow, or if Canvas's connection is slow, you'll see it takes a little bit of time. So you notice that there are two sections, published courses and unpublished courses. And we'll talk a little bit more about the difference a little bit later. But what you will do is you'll see that if you have a course that you want to interact with, all you have to do is click on it in order to access it. Now, what you're seeing here on the left-hand side, that's called the global navigation menu in Canvas. This is persistent. It's in every course, everywhere. It stays with you. And this gives you access to some important things, such as your account. So if you click on your account, you can log out and you can change things like notifications. And you'll notice that there are also some quick links there for you. The dashboard we've already covered. Calendar, just like in JetNet. Inbox, that is just like in JetNet. And then I want to slide down and talk about Commons a little bit later. Studio is an exciting thing that we'll be having training on in the future. This is a great tool that you'll want to learn how to use. This is a great way to create screen captures and other kinds of media presentations for your students, and your students can be given access to it to use it as well. And then finally, the help button, where you can go to find a lot of assistance in Canvas. So there's a huge community of Canvas users and administrators who will help you with Canvas issues. You can ask questions, but usually the question's already been asked. So you can find the answers to most of your questions in help, because that's what we do in today's modern world. So now I'm back into my empty course and I'm looking at the module view. Now, the first thing I want to notice is this second line of menu items that has appeared. This is a course menu. So now you see we have the global navigation menu, and now we have a course navigation menu. And you're going to notice that some of the items have an I that is crossed out, indicating that these are not available for students to see. Let me talk a little bit about that. So as a teacher, you have complete control over what menus that I'm showing here on the left-hand side in your course students have access to. And in general, it is a good idea to remove from student view any menu that you don't anticipate students will need to use. Here's another interesting thing. Canvas tries to help with that, because even if a menu is visible to students, if there's nothing in that menu for students to interact with, there's no way they'll see it. The menu is not visible to them. So if, say, for example, you left quizzes open for students to see, but you had no quizzes in there, students wouldn't even see the quiz menu because there's no reason for them to access it. Now, I'm going to show you how to change that in settings. So I slide down here to the bottom and I go to settings. And across the top, we have another menu. Here, I'd like to point out another thing about Canvas, different than Moodle. We already know about the global navigation. Here's the course navigation. Now, when we click further into a course and begin interacting with it, you see we have a top navigation. This is a contextual navigation. It's based on where you are in the course and your permissions or your role in the course. So train yourself to start looking up there. I also want to point out to you over on this right-hand side is this panel, which again is contextual. It depends on where you are in the course and who you are in the course, what you see there. But those are some important things that you're going to begin to need to use as an instructor here at Jackson College. And we'll be talking more about that in subsequent trainings. And most of them are pretty self-explanatory if you just train yourself to start looking over there. This is something that I've observed moving from Moodle to Canvas, that when you work with a software package for long enough, you begin to train your brain how to interact with that software. So most of us have been using Moodle, JetNet, for a number of years. Our brains are trained to think in JetNet. Now that we're moving to a new learning management system, it's not always clear to us as we think with our JetNet brains how to do things that we know we can do in Canvas, but we just don't know where the button for it is located because the navigation system is different. So sometimes during this presentation, I'll try to make a connection between what we did in JetNet and what we did in Canvas to hopefully help you begin connecting your two brains, your JetNet brain and your Canvas brain, and begin helping you develop that Canvas brain, as I know I'm struggling sometimes to do. All right, so now, again, I'm working with my course navigation menu. That's this one here, the second one from the left. I've clicked on settings and you see it's indicated with this bar next to settings. I'm looking at my top navigation here. And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to change which menu items in this left panel students can see. So I'm going to click on navigation. This brings up the navigation configuration menu. And you can see right now, there are two sections. This top part are what are visible. This bottom part are what are hidden from students that we are trying to do. Now, everyone will have their own way of approaching this, but my recommendation is to remove anything that students are not going to need to see, leaving only those things that students need to see. And then you can also reorder the items in this menu. So I'm going to do what I consider to be kind of a base menu choice. Lockdown browser won't be used in this class, so I'm going to drag it down here to hide it. If you do use lockdown browser, keep it up here. BibliU will be used. Studio will be used. New analytics. I don't think I'm going to use that in this course, so I'm going to drag it down here. I'm not going to use Office 365 in this class. No collaborations. I'm just going to use forums for that. No extra tools. I will be using Big Blue Button. The modules I'm going to be using, so I'm going to leave that there for students to see. Quizzes, I am going to use quizzes, but here's the thing about quizzes, and this is a design choice that you can make. I don't want my students to access quizzes outside of the context of the information that I expect them to consume and interact with before they take the quiz. I don't want them just to click randomly in the quiz. Sure, I'm going to have release dates on those quizzes, but I don't want students to even get used to going to quizzes. I'm designing this class for students to interact with from the module. So I'm going to hide quizzes. Now, I can still always see it, and quizzes will be available to students through my modules link. Rubrics, I'm not going to use in this class. Outcomes, I'm not going to use in this class. The syllabus is an interesting one. So the syllabus is not what we think of as a syllabus. It is an aggregation of all of the due dates and things like that, plus an area where you can upload your typical syllabus if you want to. There's been a lot of discussion about this in the faculty professional development, in Sonia and our conversations about how we're going to make sense of this. And, and even beyond, Karen Hocker maintains that syllabus archive. Because this syllabus tool does not readily convert itself to a syllabus archiving system like we use it at Jackson, which we're required to do by HLC, we're probably still going to rely on a file as a syllabus. So some instructors are saying, well, why even have this word called syllabus in a menu? Well, that's a good idea. I'm going to drag it down here. Now, Sonia has been exploring with Canvas the idea of changing that name in the menu to something like course overview. But Canvas tells us that is not a deal. We cannot do that. So we're stuck with that word syllabus. And you as an instructor are going to need to decide if you're going to use it or if it just causes more confusion for your students than you need. And if that's the case, just drag it down here so students won't even see it. Files. I don't think students need to see the files in this course. I'm dragging it down here. Pages. Nope, students don't need to see pages. The pages that I create for students are going to be available to them in the module view. So I'm not going to have the pages visible to students. People I want because I want them to be able to see who's in the class with them. Grades I want because I do want them checking the grades. Discussions, just like quizzes and pages, I don't want students going to the discussions via the menu over here. I want them to interact with the discussions using the module view, because in this class, my design is revolving around the module view, which is most like JetNet, most like Moodle, the way that's structured. Assignments, same thing. I don't want students accessing assignments outside of the context of the course information, so I'm going to hide that from students so they don't just try to get a jump on going to assignments and ignoring all of the readings that they need to do, the videos that I've created, and even the discussions that relate to the assignments. That's that context that's so important. So far, I have reduced my menu down to this limited set. I'm happy with it. I can change it at any time. So I'm done. I click on save. So now you see that my menus are still here. You'll still see that they are visible to students or not. Some of them are not visible to students simply because there's nothing available there. Oh, one other thing I meant to show you is you can reorder your menu. So go to navigation. Let's say that I think their grades should be the very first thing here after home. You can't put anything above home. Let's say I want them to look at their grades more than anything. Or let's say that the modules is the most important thing. Well, I'm going to do that. I'm going to put modules first. Announcements, I'm going to put above grades because I do use the announcements. People, Big Blue Button, Studio, BibliU. I think I'll put the BibliU up here because students may need to access their textbook frequently. So I want that higher in the menu. So now I've reordered my menu, and I'll click on save. You'll see that here, you see that modules, because there is no module, it's not visible to students, even though I have left it visible. And because I've created no announcements, that's not yet visible to students. It will be once I create an announcement. All right, I'm done editing the menu. I'm going to now go to home. Now in Canvas, unlike JetNet, you do have choices for home pages. Home pages are the way that you as the instructor can design the very first interaction that students have with you in your course. Because when they come to your class off of their dashboard, the first thing you're going to see is right here, the home page. You have options for your home page. That's right over here in this right side menu. Here are your options: course activity screen, pages once you create one, course modules, assignments list, or syllabus. The two that are most commonly used are course modules and pages. And we'll talk more about the others in other trainings. But for today, we're going to focus just on these two, pages and course modules. For now, I'm leaving it course modules because that's the design that I'm choosing for this class. So my modules are going to be the very first thing. Now, I have a thing here that says create a new module. The only time you see that is in an empty shell where there are no modules. You can click on that, but I just prefer to click on modules so that I have the interface that I will be using throughout this. Here is my modules view. And right now I don't have any modules. So let's fix that. I'm going to go right here and click on module. I give the module a name. Module 1, and now I have a module. but there's nothing in the module. And you're going to see that that's kind of a repeated pattern. You create something, but it's going to be empty. You have to fill it or populate it. So now it's really a simple matter of what is it that I want to create in my course? And again, referring to this list, these are the things that we're going to be doing today. The first thing that I want to talk about is, what if I say, man, looking at an empty module is a little intimidating. I would like some structure in my life. Where can I find that? Well, there's a ton of stuff on the web, but here's another thing that's new in Canvas, and that is called Commons. Commons is a way to share content, not only in Jackson College, but throughout the world. You can find things in this Commons that people have shared from all over the world. I mean, there's just tons of stuff that you can look through and find. There are search features and so on and filters. But luckily for us, because of the work that Sonia has been doing, we have a number of modules that have some suggested topics or suggested ways of structuring modules in them. And these come from a wide range of disciplines and sources. And because not every discipline approaches things in the same way, and not every instructor organizes their course in the same way, that's why there are so many different choices. And believe me, we could have probably 100 up here. But these are the ones that she selected, and we'll just take a look at them. This is based on the modern template. If you recall from the gallery walk that we conducted as we were beginning to onboard Canvas, we brought forward some of the template designs that Canvas offers, and they said you could choose one, so we provided some options, and people looked at those, and by acclaim, the modern template was the one that people thought was best. Now, the good news is you're not restricted to using only that template. There are many other templates, but because the modern template was the one that seemed to be preferred, that's the one we chose to bring into our Canvas. And this is the one that Sonia has been developing some examples in. So let's take a look at one of those. Modern template 1. Oh, and you notice that it's research, define, do, share. That's the organization pattern that I was talking about that's in the module. So here we have a look at over here the home page, and then here we have the module that it's going to, the module pattern. So the pattern that's provided is a welcome, begin here with a course overview, an about your instructor, course resources, and a course Q&A discussion. And then there is one example unit or module, unit 1, where you put your title or theme. And you'll see that there's an overview. And then there's a header called research, a header called define, a header called do, and a header called share. So the idea is that in this course structuring, you would pattern your module. So you introduce the topic within that overview, you give students a to-do list, and then you expect them to do research. This could be in the form of YouTube videos that you provide links to, or an assignment for students to locate information sources, verify them, justify their quality to you, and then use those to learn something about the topic. It could include readings from BibliU, or could include readings from other textbooks. The research would be the learning part of the activity. And then you have a define here. This is structured as a discussion area. And this would be where you would have students in a discussion forum or some other pattern begin to create definitions for the new ideas that they're learning, creating a common vocabulary, practicing with that. Then you have the do, where you have assignments and quizzes to extend their learning and to assess their learning. And then a share, where you have additional resources, wrap up and learning ahead. You could have a discussion forum where students share their construction of their process of learning in this particular unit, what they learned, what was effective, how they will change their pattern of engagement in the next module as they go forward. So it's a way to get some reflection, which we know from research that if you can get students to reflect on their learning process, as well as what they've learned in an engagement, they will retain that longer and make better connections. So that's the idea in trying to come up with a pattern for learning shared via a template. So let's go back to Commons. And you'll note that there are additional templates. So there's the modern, but this one is resources, discuss, create, knowledge. Here's another one based on modern. You can tell that from the design. This one is engage, explore, expand, evaluate, extend. Sonia, that's the one that Dean Rutofsky uses, isn't it? And this one is modern.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, thank you. Discover, discuss, demonstrate, and deepen, and so on. Now, here is another thing that I want you to look at, and that is the design options. So there are many design options available to you for your home screen. I want to draw your attention to this one, which is a modern template again based on that, but instead of the shapes that you see right here for the buttons have been replaced with circles and squares. A little bit easier to organize and a little bit simpler interface. There are some other examples of that here with the Jackson College maroon interface. White buttons, gray buttons, gold buttons, and so on. But then I also want to draw your attention to these, which are the module navigation template, which requires scripting. So these are templates. They are designs that are similar to the modern templates, except for these use a much more advanced system for creating navigation on the home page. So these are cascading style sheets for those who are familiar with that kind of scripting, XML. So you're only going to want to use these if you're a very advanced user and have some background and knowledge in HTML, cascading style sheets, XML. But we do have advanced instructors like that in Jackson College's group. So we have worked on that. This is an example of something that was found outside of Jackson College. I think Kim Salinas actually located one of these and is implementing them in her class. But again, she is a very advanced user and is comfortable doing that kind of scripting. I do not recommend this kind of template unless you are very familiar with that kind of scripting environment, because it can get very messy very quickly. These that we've provided here that are graphics based are much easier to use using the rich content editor that's inside of all of our courses everywhere. All right, so I'm just going to choose the first one. I'm going to say, yes, I like that. The home page is fine with me if I'm going to use that. In this course, I'm not, but I will import it if I want to use it, and we'll take a look at it. And all I have to do now is click import, download. That's that button right over here to the right. And now this is where you have to be a little bit careful. You can import it directly into the course, or you can download it. I like to directly import it, and I'm going to put it into my empty course. Notice I've got two empty courses. Hopefully this is the one from yesterday's training and today's one is there. If not, I'll just switch it and go back. So here's where you have to be careful. It is possible to click multiple things, multiple courses. And if you do that and then click import, you will get that template and that module in every course. Now, that's not the end of the world. You can always delete them, but it's kind of annoying. Here's something that is also a little worrisome. You can click all. So that means every class that you are an instructor in would receive that import. Be careful about that. I'm not sure I would include it in an all button in this menu, but they did. All right, so I'm choosing empty course. I click import into course. It says you've successfully imported or started the import. It may take a little while to see the changes. And in our experimentation, we've seen that it takes everywhere from a few seconds to a few minutes, unless you're importing an entire class. All right, so I want to go back to my course. I could do it through dashboard. I'm doing it through here just because I'm being lazy. The back arrow. There we are. And look, where I once had an empty module, I now have a module with those things that I brought over from the template. It just added it to my course. Here's that empty module, the module 1 that I created originally. Notice it just put it right underneath. It didn't erase that. Didn't change it, it just added new modules. Now, if I look in pages, I should now see a page, which is that template page. Sure enough, there it is. That's my modern template design. Taking a look at this, you have a header, welcome to Jackson College. You can put your course name in here by editing this. You can put your picture in instead of the instructor standing picture we have here. Put your title, name, and so on there. And then you can edit these buttons the way you want to. You could delete them. You have complete control over this template now that it is in your course. So you can create the look and feel that you like. Now, I'm not going to be using a page in this. I'm using my modules as my navigation system. This is my home page. This is what I want students to see. But if I wanted to, I could make that page now my home page. So when students arrived in my home, they would see this, right? That's now the home page. So you can see that by importing a page, you can add that as your new home page. You can edit it so that you can, again, be very mindful of how you're appearing to your students immediately upon entry into the class. I'm going to choose my home page and go back to modules right here. Simple as that. Save. And now the module is my home. Now you can take a look here. You've got your modules that we imported. Now I'm not going to use those right now, but you'll notice that there are some items in here that are clickable. So those are pages, quizzes, and maybe even an assignment in here. Yep, an assignment, a quiz, and so on. So those are going to show up also in our individual navigation. See, there's a quiz right there. So as we work with our modules, we can use those as we want to. Back to home or modules. Now here's a nice trick. I sampled this and I said, you know what? I don't like it. I'm just going to delete the module. Here's the thing. Even though I deleted the module, I did not delete all of the things that were in the module. So if I go to pages, for example, you're going to see the pages, view all pages. You're going to see the pages that came across, like about your instructor, course overview, course Q&A. Those are the things that were in that top module that I just deleted. So deleting a module does not delete the topics in there. Now, there are some issues with this that we've discovered that I do feel like I have to warn you about, and that is with Mastery Paths, which we just had that training on from Canvas. Kim Salinas was using Mastery Paths. She deleted a module that had connections to Mastery Paths, and it deleted assignments, even though those assignments didn't look like they were inside the module anymore. So if you're working with advanced features like Mastery Paths, that's a caution that I want to put out here. It's a bug in the system. We worked with Canvas and they said, oh, we didn't know that would happen. We'll have to fix that at some point in the future. It's not fixed yet, so be careful with that if you're going to be using Mastery Paths. Okay, back to modules.
Brian, could I interject here? If anyone needs a moment to bring in a template into their course, please let us know and Brian can pause for that.
Thank you, Sonia, because I was not going to pause. I was just going to steamroll right on.
Are you guys all okay, or?
I have a question. If I bring in a template to my sandbox that already has stuff in it, will it get rid of the stuff that's already there, or will it incorporate it all together?
It will add it together. Would you like an empty shell?
No, that's okay. I don't mind looking at the ones that I already have some things in there. I just want to make sure I'm not going to delete that stuff if I'm bringing in, because I love those templates and I want to bring that in. I want to make sure I'm not deleting anything.
It will add to it.
Great, thank you.
Brian, Carol mentioned that it's taking her template a moment.
Okay.
To import. Brian, there has been 2 questions. I just want to be able to mention those while we've got a break here. It was requested that you show, maybe in student view, well, the question is for you to show how students will get to Big Blue Button and to see their assignments. You had hidden the assignment tab in the menu, so I think that's what made that the assignments question. When you went to settings and then navigation, you had turned off the view for assignments. So I think that's why possibly that question came up.
All right.
And he'll go over assignments a little bit later, but Big Blue Button is a little more tricky. So if you can explain that later.
Okay, so first of all, I'm going to click on that student view button up here in the top right-hand corner. This is what the course will look like to students. And notice that the module is published and visible. This is that module that I imported from the template. And you'll see that the assignment is available to the student here. So they don't need an assignment menu here to access an assignment that you put into a module. So that's hopefully the answer for that. BibliU is this link here. Students can click on it, and there was an error.
I think I may not have said it loud enough. They were looking for Big Blue Button.
Oh, okay. So a Big Blue Button isn't available to students yet because I haven't created anything in Big Blue Button. So let me leave student view. Let's cover that at the end of this session. We do have Big Blue Button training that will be forthcoming if we're going to continue using it.
Brian,
All right.
I have a question, a quick
Any
question.
other questions?
Yeah,
Yes.
can the modules be nested like folders?
No.
So if I want to have, like we currently have in JetNet, a landing page, and then below the landing page are the 7 weekly modules for the 7-week course. What is that landing page? Is that a page?
That is a
And then the
page.
That's a page. Okay, thank you.
All right, any other questions before we go on? All right, so to get back to this, because this is a basic, I'm going to delete this module. I don't want this module. Notice that I'm unpublishing it. That's an important thing to know about. Published things can be seen by students, unpublished things cannot. It doesn't matter since I'm deleting it, but know about that. So again, I've deleted the module, but the assignments and everything, they're still available. They're going to be, you'll see them as we work here. But now I'm kind of back to my starting point, and that is the module which I created by clicking this plus module right here. All right, so in the module, and this is not the only way to create a class, but this is a way. It's not the way, it is a way. And this way is most similar to the way we think in JetNet, which is something that I think is useful to think about. So now that I've got my module, I'm ready to begin assembling the module. And I'm just going to do that tool by tool to show you how to do that. So what I'm going to do is right here, notice that I have my publish, unpublish button right here. Again, this hides it from students. So think about this as the hide function in JetNet. If it's not green, it's not visible. If it's green with a check mark, that means it is visible to students. I'm going to leave that unpublished for now. I recommend that when you're working on a course or a module or anything, don't publish until the point where you are done working with it. We ran into an issue with one of our early implementation groups this summer. They were working on a quiz. They had published it in a published class, in a published module, so it was available to students. A student took the quiz before the instructor finished writing the questions. Canvas is really strict about this. Once a student engages with a resource and submits something, you really have a hard time changing it. With a quiz, we found you couldn't change that quiz at all. What ended up happening, I think, is we just had to put it into a non-weighted folder, a 0 weight folder, so it wouldn't impact the grade, and then the student had to take the quiz once it was completely designed. So just as a rule, don't publish until you're done designing and developing and ready for students. Right next to the publish button is this plus button. You click on that, and that brings up this interface, which allows you to add an item to module 1. First thing you should notice is a drop-down menu. You click on that, and you'll see assignment, quiz, file, page, discussion, text header, external URL, external tool. Those are the things that you can use in a module. I'm just going to start at the top and choose an assignment. Now here you have options. You can create an assignment, or you can choose an assignment that's in the course already. So you can see right here, you have the heading assignments, and then individual assignment. That was the assignment we brought over from the template. Now in this example, I'm not going to use this assignment. I'm going to create an assignment. So I'm going to just click here. I'm going to give the assignment a name. Because I'm clever, I'm going to call it assignment 1. I can choose to indent or not. I'm not going to indent this one. I'm going to click add item, and boom, I now have an assignment. But this assignment is completely empty. So here I want you to think with your JetNet brain, everything that you add into a module is kind of like a quiz in JetNet. You know how in JetNet Moodle, when you add a quiz to a topic, that quiz is an empty shell until you either write questions for it or import questions and associate questions with the quiz. That's the way that all of these things that we're adding to a module work in Canvas. You first add the shell or the empty placeholder, and then you have to enter that thing that you have created to configure it. So here I have an assignment 1. I'm going to double click it to open it up. And you can see that there's nothing here. It's just an empty shell. If I want to fix up that, I need to edit it. So I'm going to click on edit. And then you have the ability to change the name. Here you have the rich content editor. You will sometimes see that in documentation as RCE. And this is just like in Moodle. It's just your interface that it gives you a what you see is what you get editor. Here you have points. I'm going to say 10 points for this. The assignment grouping, since I only have one group, it's going to be in assignments. So I'm not going to change that. We can change that later. And then here you can tell it to change or display the grade as points or percentage, complete, incomplete, letter grade, GPA scale, or not graded. I'm going to keep it points for now. Here's a handy one. Do not count this assignment towards the final grade. Handy if you want to have things in your module that look like assignments that are either optional or that are required but bear no points and should not impact the class grade. Next, you have to tell it what kind of submission type, and you have several options. First one is no submission, meaning it just creates an empty grade item. If you think in the Moodle brain, that's like going to your grade book and going down to the edit and then going down to the bottom and click add grade item. That's essentially what this would be if we created it with no submission. You can also do an online submission, and that's like in Moodle, the assignment in Moodle with that drop box where it allows students to upload something or to type into a text box interface. You have an on paper option. This would be if you have a classroom-based, so hybrid class or a face-to-face class, you need a grade item and you're expecting students to actually submit something to you during the course. And then you have an external tool as an option, so you can interface with other things that would be connected via LTI that we're still working on. So for this, I'm going to create this as an online submission. And then you see that I have these options. I can have it be a text entry. I can have students submit a URL. I can have students submit media recordings, a student annotation, where they can see things that they want to annotate, or a file upload. And that's the one that I'm going to choose, file upload. And then here you have this box, restrict file upload types. Now, here's where Canvas is not as smart as Moodle. In Moodle, you have a list that you can choose from. Here, you have to manually enter the extensions that you're going to allow. So those are the common ones that you would allow: the document, the old Microsoft Word, the new Microsoft Word, a PDF, or a rich text format. Here, allowed attempts. Right now it's unlimited. If I limit it, I have to tell it how many options, how many available uploads there are for the student. I'm going to leave it unlimited. Here's where you can declare this as a group assignment. A group assignment means that you have created groups in your course that work together, and instead of submitting individually, they're going to submit together. If you don't have groups and you click on this, it's going to tell you, hey, you've got to have groups. So it opens up the group set interface. I don't want to cover that here, so I'm going to cancel this. And I'm going to say, nope, this is a group assignment. Nope, not in this one. Here is a require peer reviews. So this is handy if you have students review each other's work. Again, if you want to, you can manually assign, or you can have Canvas automatically assign peer reviews. And there is an anonymous option. I'm not going to mess with that in this. That's a more advanced feature. And then finally, we get down to who to assign it to, everyone, or you can assign it to groups or individuals. And then the due dates, you can click on the calendar, or you can leave it open in order to not have a due date on there. When I'm done configuring all of these things, I also want to put in instructions here. You always want to tell students what they have to do. Now you have cancel, save and publish, or save. Because I am not done designing this assignment, I do want to come back to it. I am not going to hit save and publish. That could potentially make it available to students. I'm just going to hit save. Now it comes back to my configuration. Now you see there are points. They're submitting a file upload. Here are the file types. If I want to, I can add a rubric. Tells me who it's assigned to and when it's available. It's open. I didn't put a due date. All right, I'm done with that. Now I can go back to modules or home, and I'm ready to add my next thing. So I click on this plus button. The next thing I want to add is a quiz. Again, because I have a quiz in the modules, I imported it. I can do that, or I can click create quiz. And that's what I'm going to do. Quiz 1. Group is going to be assignments because that's my only group so far. And I'm not going to indent this one either. Add item. Now I have an empty quiz. Double click it. Nothing really there for students to do. I need to edit this quiz. Quiz 1. In my rich content editor allows me to do anything I'm used to doing in Moodle. This is a graded quiz. I could also make it a practice quiz. Practice quiz, graded survey, an ungraded survey. So JetNet has more options for surveys and gathering user feedback. This is really your only option, the graded survey or ungraded survey or a quiz. So I'm going to leave it as a graded quiz. I can shuffle. I can give it a time limit. All the things that we're used to. I can permit multiple attempts. I can tell it to keep the highest, the latest, or the average, and I can tell it how many attempts I want students to have. Next, let students see their quiz responses. I can say yes or no just by clicking there. I can configure this only once after each attempt, or not at all. So you have the power to configure this in ways that make the best sense to you. I can tell it to show one question at a time. I can lock the questions after. Here are familiar things. We have this in JetNet. You can require an access code. In JetNet, I think we call it a password. Don't worry about filtering IP addresses unless you understand what that means. If you understand it, then you might want to use it. Otherwise, you won't want to use it. Then again, this is kind of a common thing. Assigned to everyone, due, available, and so on. Again, I'm done configuring. I click save. Brings me back to here. Now, right now, I don't have any questions in here. And if I want to put questions in here, I can do that. I can do that later, or I can do it now. I'm not going to worry about it right now. Just know that we have an unpublished quiz that has no questions in it. We'll need to be worrying about that later. Back to modules.
Brian, if we could answer a couple questions, please.
Sure, thank you.
Yep. Darlene is asking if we leave the restrictions blank for uploading an assignment, will it accept any type of submission, meaning
Yeah.
all types?
Yes.
And the next question is from Jennifer Wheeler, which is there a megabyte limit to uploads like Moodle? Can we adjust if there is? For the total amount is 1 gigabyte, which would be 1,000 megabytes per class. And I don't know if, Jennifer, can you explain, are you talking about each individual upload, or are you talking about the course total?
Nope, that's what I wanted to know, per assignment like that. Just wanted to know, just like that, when we had in Moodle, you could pick, if you know what I'm saying, from a list of how many megabytes, if you wanted to increase that. I think the
You
default
do not
was
have that
500.
option in Canvas.
Okay, okay.
Yeah. Now, I have not run into the limit on that. I'm told that it is higher than Moodle. So hopefully we won't run into a problem with that.
I can look that up and see what that is, Jennifer.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Any
Yeah.
other questions? All right, so let's continue with creating this course module from scratch. I click the plus. I've done the assignment and quiz. Now I'm going to do a file. Here, I have some files in the class. I can create files, which really means browsing my computer to upload a file, and so on. In this case, I'm going to use a file that is already in the course, so I'm just going to choose the instructor photo right here. Indent or not? Nope, I'm not going to. Click add item. And so now I've just added a file, which is a photo of an instructor. Again, you can add files directly off of your computer, which is what we most often will do when we're creating a class from scratch. Clicking the plus sign again. Now I want to add a page. Here are some pages that were already created. Those are pages that we brought across in that template. Or we can create a page. That's the choice I'm going to do. I'm going to call it page 1. Click add item. And now I have an empty page. Double clicking that page brings me to the page. You can see it's empty. I have to click on edit to put something in there. Here's my rich content editor. I can do anything that I'm used to doing in Moodle with, changing fonts, superscript, headscript. I can add links. I can add pictures. I can add media. I can do all of the things that you expect to be able to do with a content editor in an LMS. They're all available to you. You also have accessibility checkers. If you're into scripting, you can click on here and open up the scripting interface, and you can actually write code here, HTML and cascading style sheet, both. Switching back, most of us use it just as a rich content editor. You can change who edits a page. Only teachers, teachers and students, or even anyone. Most of the time, we're going to say that's going to be only teachers. Click save after you're done editing or when you're done working with it. For now, not publishing it because I'm not done with it yet. So this is a page. All right, going back to modules. Plus sign, you see how it's starting to get a little repetitive. Now I'm going to add a discussion. Here are some discussions that were already in the class. I'm going to choose create a topic. Discussion 1, add item. It's empty. I need to click into this. And now here I have this discussion, but there's no question yet. If I hit reply, what am I replying to? Uh-oh. And unlike the others, you don't have an edit button available to you. Now is the time to introduce the 3-dot menu. So train yourself to start looking for that 3-dot menu. When you see that, that is a menu that's contextual. It's available to you. So here you see I have an edit button. I can click on that, and now I have my rich content editor. I can add an attachment like we often do. Note that here you can click on the URL. You can add a YouTube video. You can add a video that you've created. Anything that you're used to doing in Moodle, you can do here. And then the anonymous discussion is available in Canvas. It is turned off currently. We don't permit anonymous discussions for some reason in our Canvas interface. But you do have choices that will be familiar to you. This one is the one that's most important, and that is users must post before seeing replies. In Moodle, that is the Q&A forum. So here, differentiating between Moodle or JetNet and Canvas, Moodle has many more forum types available to you than Canvas does. Canvas essentially has two forum types if you think in your Moodle brain. You have the standard forum and you have the Q&A forum. Those are the two types of forums you can do in Canvas. The Q&A forum is just clicking that button. So a user must post their response before they can see other student replies. And we've talked about this many times before. That's handy if you want students to express an original opinion or idea and not have a student who will say, oh, I feel a little insecure today. I'm going to read all of the smart kids posts and then I'll kind of synthesize a new version of what they've already said. So I'm going along with the group. If you like to require students to post before they can see anyone else's posts, that Q&A forum, that's your checkbox right there. So you have some other things, a podcast feed, that's, I don't know, people don't do podcasts like they used to. So I'm thinking that's not used a lot anymore. But you do have this graded option. Graded is probably important because we often do graded forums. When we choose graded, you'll notice that it pops up another set of configurations, group discussions. So if you want to assign discussions to small groups, you can. And here you can assign points. This is a 10-pointer. Choose if I want to show it as percentage, complete, incomplete points, letter grade, or so on. I'm going to leave it as points. My grouping is still assignments. I can require peer reviews. That's something that we don't really have in a Moodle forum, so that's kind of interesting. And then again, who to assign it to. So that's my configuration for a quiz. I'm going to save this. I'm not publishing it yet because I might want to do something more before students access that. Right, so now I have discussion one. Here they have, here's what to discuss. Here they have the reply button so that they can open the rich content editor and make their reply. Back to modules. Clicking this familiar plus button, the next one we're going to do is a text header. A text header is like the label in Moodle, except it is much more limited. So in Moodle, that label gave you the option to have a rich content editor. You can put anything in a label that you can put in an assignment and so on. That is not the case in Canvas. A text header, I don't know why I'm saying editor. The text header in Canvas is just text and it is limited to just 100 and some, or is it 80 something? It's not very many characters.
While Brian's finishing this part up, we are coming close to the 10 a.m. time. If anyone wants to stay for the rest, we will continue recording this. There are a couple questions that were asked that I'd like to share before we get
That
to
would
the
be
10.
a great thing to do. Thank you, Sonia, for watching the time for me.
Yep. Pat Visser mentioned that what if people continue to add things? The upload limit is 500 megabytes, so two assignments could fill up the time or fill up the space. So I'm guessing that maybe add something to the syllabus, or you can reject assignment uploads. And I think that's the only, is there the megabyte limit upload, just like a Moodle? Can we adjust it if there is? I don't know a way to adjust it, but I can look that up. I can continue to look. And that seems to be the only question so far. So Brian, if you want to continue.
All right. Well, we're almost done. So that was the text header. Here's an external URL. That's just going to be https://youtube.com or whatever your URL that you want to add in that you want to do. And add item. Clicking my plus. I also have an external tool. Here you have all of the tools that have been made available in Canvas. The one that I'm going to draw your attention to is BibliU, so you can bring your BibliU link into your course module using the BibliU tool here, add item. All right, so as we're wrapping up, we want to go back over our main idea. So when you create a course from scratch, you are presented with an empty shell. You can begin that course creation process by importing a template, which can help provide some structure and some ideas to your course design. It's a really good idea, even if you don't use a template, to think of a consistent pattern of design for every module. And once you have that pattern, and if you keep repeating it, then students, as they engage with your class, they have to spend less time understanding what to do, and they can spend more time doing that which helps them learn the things that you want them to learn. As we design our modules, you have these basic options, similar to what we have in Moodle: assignments, quiz, files, pages, discussions, a text header, and then links such as YouTube's or anything else, and external tools like Bibliu and others. Your process of creation then is just to continue creating. I can add another module, module 2, and add module 2 and begin that creation here. The one nice thing I find about Canvas is moving things around is a little bit better than in JetNet. So it's a little bit easier to move things around. Why can't I not? Oh, yeah, I can't drag from one module to another. I have to use the plus button. But inside the module, this works really pretty nicely and pretty quickly. So I can move those things around. All right, that's covering the basics of creating a Canvas course from scratch. Now, every tool has its own training practically, and there are so many more things that you can do. We will continue to have training on Canvas in the future. In August, we'll begin doing some additional trainings, and that's the point at which we'll start inviting adjuncts in, those adjuncts who have been identified by their lead faculty as teaching in Canvas for fall. So if you're considering that, you'll be asked to provide that list so we can make sure that we're reaching out to your adjuncts and getting them the training they need to be successful teaching in the fall, which, as you know, is our first opportunity for anyone to opt in. Reminder, spring, everybody will be in Canvas for every class. So you have the summer and you have all fall to get your courses ready to go, either designing new ones or importing them through a migration process from Moodle. Any questions to wrap out our session?
Darlene had a question.
Yes.
She asked if the sandbox is similar to a master.
Yes, it is. So we're not going to have master classes anymore. All classes will either be live classes, or what we would call production classes, where students will be in the course, or they will be sandboxes, which is a place for development of courses. And then we will also have a source course, and the source course is a sandbox which has gone through peer review and quality assurance. Sandboxes will continue to be used like the old master classes, where you will be able to copy them into your production shells as needed in order to teach from them. But hopefully, we're hoping that everyone will go through and learn how to create the source course, which would take your sandbox and make it even better. And then that will be used to be imported into course shells. Canvas has a tool that permits an automated copy of a course shell into new course shells. It's called blueprinting. Once you have a source course, we were hoping to have a method to identify which sections you wanted your source course copied into, and then IT could script that for us and make that happen automatically. That's off in the future, but know that the process of using a sandbox is kind of like the master and the sandbox that we had in JetNet. It is the development site that would then be copied into a production version.
If I could answer the question about what Canvas says about the file sizes in the course.
Yes.
It's for submitting assignments. It suggests that you restrict the file types for videos, and you require students to submit a link to any videos.
Right. Okay. So when you're configuring your assignment. If you want them to do a video, don't do media recordings, make them do a URL
Yes, that's what they suggest.
and no file upload. So that way they'd have to create their own YouTube and then link it rather than to do a recording, which might be longer. I think the recordings though, those will be in the Canvas system and those are time restricted. But videos they're recommending have them submit the video via a URL.
Yeah, and Carol has another question. What template is used during migration? I have a course that was migrated and I like its appearance. Carol, do you have a course number that we can look at? Or we
I'm
could
going to
look-
stop the share. Actually, I'm going to stop the recording.